Okay, so once again, good day everyone. So the topic for today is the need for security. Our bad neighbor makes us early steerers, no, which is both helpful and good husbandry, no. So this talks mentioned by William Shakespeare, no, when it comes to the need for security. Unlike any other information technology program, the primary mission of an information security program is to ensure the system and their contents remain the same. No? Organizations expend hundreds of thousands of dollars and thousands of man hours to maintain their information systems. If threats to information system didn't exist, these resources could be used to improve the system that support the information. However, attacks on information system are a daily occurrence, and the need of information security grows along with the sophistication of such attacks. So organization must understand the environment in which information system operates so that their information security programs can address the actual and potential problem. Okay, so in this topic, we will be able to describe this environment and identifies the threats it poses to organizations and their information. So we need to identify business needs first. No, information security performs for important important functions for an organization. Protecting the organization's ability to function, enabling the safe operations of applications running on the organization's IT systems, protecting the data the organizations collect and uses, and safeguarding the organization's technology asset. Okay, for us to give more inputs regarding the topic, let us all welcome our presenter. Go ahead.
Good morning, sir, and good morning, my dear classmates. Today we will discuss the topic all about the need for security and implementing information security. What is information security? Information security is the sum of the people, processes, and technology implemented within an organization to protect information assets. It also prevents unauthorized disclosure, disruption, access, use, modification, etc. of those information assets. There are three principles of information security. First is confidentiality. Confidentiality is the protection of information against unauthorized disclosure. The purpose of the confidentiality principle is to keep personal information private and to ensure that it is visible to those individuals who own it or need it to perform their organizational functions. Integrity. Integrity is consistency include protection against unauthorized changes to data. The principle of integrity ensures that data is accurate and reliable and is not modified incorrectly, whether accidentally or maliciously. The last is availability. Availability is the protection of a system's ability to make soft system and data fully available when a user needs it or at a specific time. Need for information security. Why do you need an information security policy? The goal when writing an organizational information security policy is to provide relevant direction and value to individuals within an organization with regard to security. First is to prevent data breaches. A data breach resulting in the loss of critical business information. Due to a large amount of data stored on a company's servers, businesses often become the main target of cybercriminals if the network is unprotected. Number 2 is to check for compromised credential and broken authentication. Data breaches and other cyber attacks are usually a result of lax authentication, weak password, and poor certificate or key management. Last is to avoid account hijacking. Phishing fraud and software exploitation are still very common. Companies relying on cloud services are especially at risk because they are an easy target for cybercriminals who can eavesdrop on activities, modify data, and manipulate transactions. Approaches to information security implementations. The bottom-up approach. The bottom-up approach places the responsibility of successful information security on a single staff member or security department, such as our network security professional, on staff cyber engineer or other expert who doesn't hold a top level management position. The main advantage of a bottom-up approach to InfoSec is that you're using a person or team's experience and expertise to handle intricate security concerns. The second approach is the top-down approach. The top-down approach starts with upper management. Top-level managers are the ones responsible for initiating, creating, and implementing your data protection strategy, including policy creation, procedural instructions, and escalation plans. They may seek outside assistance, training, or a working partnership with a professional InfoSec service. The advantage of the top-down approach: this approach looks at each department's data and explores how it connected to find vulnerabilities. Managers have the authority to issue a company-wide instruction while still allowing each person to play an integral part in keeping data safe.
There are few core reasons why your organization should have information security policies. Information security policies define what is required of an organization employees from a security perspective. Information security policies reflect the risk appetite of an organization management and should reflect the managerial mindset when it comes to security. Information security policies provide the direction upon which a control framework can be built to secure the organization against external and internal threats. Information security policies are a mechanism to support an organization's legal and ethical responsibilities. Information security policies are a mechanism to hold individuals accountable for compliance with expected behaviors with regard to information security. 9 steps on implementing an information security program. Step 1 is build an information security team. The first step in information security is to decide who needs a seat at the table. One side of the table holds the executive team, made up of senior level associates responsible for crafting the mission and goals of the security program, setting security policies, risk limitation, and more. Step 2: Inventory and manage assets. The security team's first job is to conduct an inventory of everything that could contain sensitive data, from hardware and devices to applications, or both internally and third-party developed, to databases, shared folders, and more. Step 3: Assess risk. To assess risk, you need to think about threats and vulnerabilities. Start by making a list of any potential threats to your organization assets. Then score these threats based on their likelihood and impact. From there, think about what vulnerabilities exist within your organization and categorize and rank them based on potential impact. Step 4: Manage risk. In manage risk, there are 4 types of risk. Now that you have your risk rank, decide whether you want to reduce, transfer, accept, or ignore each risk. Reduce the risk. Identify and apply fixes to counter the risk. For example, setting up a firewall, establishing local and backup locations, purchasing water leak detection for a data center. Transfer the risk. Purchase insurance for assets or bring on a third party to take on that risk. Accept the risk. If the cost to apply a countermeasure outweighs the value of the loss, you can choose to do nothing to mitigate that risk. Avoid the risk. This happens when you deny the existence or potential impact of a risk, which is not recommended as it can lead to irreversible consequences. Step 5. Develop an incident management and disaster recovery plan. Without an incident management and disaster recovery plan, you put your organization at risk should any security incident or natural disaster occur. This includes things like power outage, IT system crashes, hacking, supply chain problems, and even pandemics like COVID-19. A good plan identifies common incidents and outlines what needs to be done and by whom in order to recover data and IT systems. Step 6. Inventory and manage third parties. Make a list of vendors, suppliers, and other third parties who have access to your organization's data or systems. Then prioritize your list based on the sensitivity of the data. Once identified, find out what security measures high-risk third parties have in place or mandates necessary controls. Step 7. Apply security controls. You've been busy identifying risks and deciding on how you'll handle each one. For the risks you want to act on, it's time to implement controls. These controls will mitigate or eliminate risks. They can be technical, for example, encryption, intrusion detection software, antivirus, firewalls, or non-technical, for example, policies, procedures, physical security, and personnel. One non-technical control you'll implement is a security policy which serves as the umbrella over a number of other policies such as backup policy, password policy, access control policy, and more. Step 8. Establish security awareness training. Conduct frequent security awareness training to share your information security plan and how each employee plays a role in it. After all, new security measures and policies do nothing if employees working with the data are not educated on how to minimize risk. Anytime an element of your security program changes, your employees need to be aware and be sure to document and retain evidence of trainings for future auditing purposes. And the last is step 9. Audit, audit, audit. The best way to determine the effectiveness of your information security program is to hire a third-party auditor to offer an unbiased assessment on security gaps. In some cases, this is mandatory to confirm compliance. And that's all. Thank you.
Good
Okay, so as our presenter mentions no earlier related to this topic, no, uh, both general management and IT management are responsible for implementing information security that protects the organization's ability to function. Although many business and government managers shy away from addressing information security because they perceive it to be a technical complex task. In fact, implementing information security has more to do with management than with technology. Just a managing payroll has more to do with management than with mathematical wage computations. Managing information security has more to do with policy and its enforcement than with the technology of its implementations. So, as Charles Cresson Woods writes, no, he mentioned, in fact, a lot of information security is good management for information technology. So many people think that a solution to a technology problem is more technology. Well, not necessarily. So a lot of my work based on him out of necessity has been trying to get my clients to pay more attention to information security as management issue in addition to a technical issue. Information security as a people issue in addition to the technical issue. But of course, each of an organization's communities of interest must address information security in terms of business impact and the cost of business interruptions rather than isolating security as a technical problem. So, safeguarding technology asset in organizations is important. Protecting data that organizations collect and use, and of course, enabling the safe operations of application or operations of applications. Now, in this part, we need also to consider the threats. No? And all of us are very familiar of what threats is. Okay, so we have a category of threat, of course: compromise to intellectual property, software attacks, deviation in quality of service, espionage of trespass, forces of nature, human error of failure or failure, information extortion, missing inadequate or incomplete, missing inadequate or incomplete controls, sabotage or vandalism happen. No? Theft, as I mentioned. Technical hardware failures or errors has also happened. No? Technical software failures or errors, and technological obsolescence. No? So, again, there are certain concern also the internet service issues. No? In organizations that rely heavily on the internet and the World Wide Web to support continued operation, because internet service provider failures can considerably undermine the availability of information, and many organizations have sales staff and telecommunicators working at remote location when these offsite employees cannot contact or the host systems, and they must use manual procedures to operate or continue operations. So when it comes to communication and service provider issues, no, we need to consider the power irregularities, like brownout, spike, sag, fault, blackout. No, as I mentioned, espionage is also considered. Then, hindi rin natin maaalis, of course, the human error or failure. So, this category includes acts performed without intent or malicious purpose by an authorized user. So, when people use information system, mistakes happen. No? Inexperience, improper training, and the incorrect assumptions are just a few things that can cause these misadventures. No? Regardless of the cause, even innocuous mistakes can produce extensive damage. Okay? So, even for example, no, a simple keyboarding error can cause worldwide internet outage. No? So one of the greatest threats to an organization information security is the organization's own employees. No? Because employees are the threat agent closest to the organizational data. Because employees use data in everyday activities to conduct the organization's business, their mistakes represent a serious threat to the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data. No? As what our presenter mentioned earlier. Some systems that have high potential for data loss or system outage use expert system to monitor human actions and request confirmations of critical inputs. So a while ago, I mentioned about information extortion. No, it occurs when an attacker or trusted insiders steals information from a computer system and demands compensation for its return or for an agreement not to disclose it. Because extortion is a common in credit card number theft. No? So yun yung ano natin. Okay, so sabotage. No? This category threats involve the deliberate sabotage of computer system or business or acts of vandalism to either destroy an asset or damage the image of an organization. And these acts can range from petty vandalism by employees to organized sabotage against an organizations. So theft is common actually. So an attack is an act that take advantage of a vulnerability to compromise a controlled system. It is accomplished by a threat agent that damages or steals an organization's information or the physical asset. A vulnerability is an identified weakness in a controlled system where controls are not present or are no longer effective. So unlike threats, which are always present, attacks only exist when a specific act may cause a loss. And let's say, for example, the threat of damage from a thunderstorm is present throughout the summer in many places, but an attack and its associated risk of loss only exists for the duration of an actual thunderstorm. No, the malicious code, of course, attack includes the execution of viruses, worms, Trojan horses, and active web scripts with the intend to destroy or steal information. So the state-of-the-art malicious code attack is the polymorphic or multi-vector worm. So that this attacks program use up to 6 known attacks vectors to exploit a variety of vulnerabilities and commonly found information system devices. Na? You're familiar with IP, IP scan and attack, web browsing, virus, unprotected shares, mass mail, and simple network management protocol. Of course, password crack is also another things that we need to consider. Mail bombing, no, snipers, no, and so on. Okay, then, of course, another thing that we need to consider, of course, is the poor usability. No, employees prefer doing things the easy way. So when faced with an official way of performing a task and an official way, which is easier, they prefer the easier method. The only way to address this issue is to only provide one way, the secure way. So integrating security and usability, adding training and awareness, and ensuring solid controls, and all contribute to the security of information. Because allowing users to default to easier, more usable solutions will inevitably lead to loss. Okay, I think that's it for the topic. And thank you for listening, and congratulations to our presenter.